You say Mr. Pickett has cheated on you with at least 8 women you know of. The defendant, your wife, admitted to you that you may not be his biological father. You admit to stepping out on your husband and cheating around the time that you conceived your son, Pat.
When the truth hides behind years of doubt and love stands trial, only one answer can set a family free. In the quiet tension of a courtroom, 2 hearts face the weight of a truth long buried under betrayal, forgiveness, and fragile hope. Mr. Pickett sits with his head bowed but his eyes unflinching, ready to confront the question that has haunted him for years. Is the boy he has raised truly his own? He is a man desperate to be a father, not just in title, but in truth. For 3 years, he has carried a storm inside him. The uncertainty of whether his son, Patrick, shares his blood, or whether he has been living a lie. His wife, Miss Pickett, once confessed her infidelity, admitting that around the time she conceived Patrick, she had been unfaithful. The revelation shattered everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and family. Yet, here he stands, still clinging to the hope that the child he calls son is rightfully his. Their story is not simple. It's tangled in years of broken trust, reconciliation, and pain. Miss Pickett does not deny her mistake, but she refuses to let all the blame rest on her shoulders. She insists that both of them are guilty, that he too had his share of betrayals, that he had been unfaithful many times before she ever was. But the difference, she says, is that when she stepped out, the consequences were far heavier. The court listens as their past unfolds like a wound reopened. Mr. Pickett speaks of extended vacations, his term for the time he spent away from home, separated from his wife, trying to figure out where things had gone wrong. During those absences, he would return to find unfamiliar men around his home, and in the back of his mind, the seeds of doubt began to grow. When his wife told him she was pregnant, the timeline didn't feel right. He remembered being away, and he remembered seeing another man at her side during that same period. Even his young son, barely 5 at the time, mentioned seeing Mum's boyfriend. Words that pierced his heart like knives. That's when the questions began. Silent at first, then louder, until they consumed him completely. Yet, for all the doubt, Mr. Pickett never stopped loving the boy. He continued to play the role of father, even when uncertainty gnawed at him. He calls himself a 75% dad, lacking only the confirmation that would make him whole, the 25% that DNA could define, but love had already given. Miss Pickett listens. As her husband recounts their years of turbulence, tears threatening to fall, she knows she has given him reason to doubt, and she admits it openly. But she also reminds the court that she told him the truth, that she confessed her mistake, even if it took 3 years to gather the courage to do so. She apologizes again, explaining that she was lonely, that he had been gone, and that her lapse in judgment was not born of malice but of heartbreak. But for Mr. Pickett, the confession was a thunderclap in a clear sky. He recalls the day vividly, how he stood in his swim trunks, ready for a simple day by the pool, when his wife told him she might have conceived their child with another man. He says he froze, numb with disbelief, then exploded with grief, pacing outside, shouting to the heavens, and yet even in his rage he forgave her. Not because it was easy, but because he wanted to believe that love could survive the truth. He told himself that being a man meant taking responsibility, that even if he had failed as a husband, he could still succeed as a father, so he chose forgiveness, even when his heart was still bleeding. Infidelity is everywhere, he says, but love is rare. Still, his forgiveness did not erase his doubt. It followed him through every smile, every laugh, every father-son moment. He would look at Patrick and see himself, and then not see himself at all. Each time the uncertainty crept back in. Then came the cracks in their reunion. Though they had tried to rebuild, trust refused to take root. His wife accused him of controlling her, of watching her every move, of not letting her work, socialize, or even breathe without his approval. Her friend Miss Carson confirms this before the court, saying that Mr. Pickett's love comes with walls, that his forgiveness is shadowed by fear, and his protection sometimes feels like prison. Mr. Pickett doesn't deny it. "I'll take that on the head," he says. He admits that his love has become possessive, shaped by pain and insecurity, but he also defends his actions, saying he is a man who lost trust once and cannot afford to lose it again. The court listens to a story that is not just about infidelity, but about what happens after it, the endless cycle of trying to move forward while looking backward. They are a couple at war with their own love, trapped between the past and the future. When the judge asks if Miss Pickett still feels controlled, she hesitates, but admits she does. She says she's tired of the arguments, the accusations, the endless revisiting of old wounds. She confesses that she wants to be free, that she's even considered divorce. Yet when asked if she believes the child is her husband's, her answer is firm. "Yes," she says softly. "I made one mistake, but Patrick is his son." Even so, Mr. Pickett's suspicion lingers. He says he loves his wife, truly loves her, and he wants to save their marriage. He wants to be the father his son believes him to be, but in the same breath, he admits that his heart cannot silence the doubt. The judge, with calm authority, points out what everyone already knows. Both of them have made mistakes. Both of them have inflicted pain. But what matters now is whether they can build something new from the ruins of their past. The moment of truth approaches. The courtroom holds its breath as the DNA envelope is brought forward. Mr. Pickett's hands tremble as the judge reads the results. A piece of paper that will decide whether love or biology defines this family. When the words come, they crash through the silence like thunder. In the case of Pickett versus Pickett, when it comes to 4-year-old Patrick, the pause feels eternal. Every emotion, every tear, every sleepless night leads to this heartbeat. "Mr. Pickett, you are the father." The courtroom erupts. Relief, laughter, disbelief, and joy all collide in one explosive moment. Mr. Pickett leaps up, overwhelmed, his emotions spilling out in uncontrollable celebration. For the first time in years, he feels whole. The missing piece of his heart finally found. His wife smiles through tears, her face softening as the weight of years lifts off her shoulders. The judge, watching them both, acknowledges the power of forgiveness, but also the work still ahead. She reminds them that love is not enough without growth, that they must learn to rebuild not just their marriage, but their trust. As the first story closes, it leaves behind a truth that lingers, that sometimes love survives the unthinkable, not because it forgets, but because it chooses to endure. But the court's doors don't close there. Another case begins, one that mirrors the same wounds. A woman's one mistake, a man's fading trust, and a child caught in between. Miss Martin sits before the court, her voice trembling but steady. She admits to a moment of weakness, a night that may cost her everything. Her fiancé, Mr. Penner, sits beside her, distant but not detached. His heart wants to stay, but his pride is already halfway out the door. Their love, once strong, has unraveled under suspicion. Miss Martin confesses that one night, after being left alone too many times, she attended a party and made a terrible mistake. She slept with another man, a man whose name she can barely recall. That single act, born of loneliness and anger, now threatens to destroy the family she built. She insists that she told her fiancé the next morning, that she came clean immediately, but Mr. Penner says she didn't. He says she hid it until she found out she was pregnant, a month later. The courtroom listens as both recall the same story with different truths. She claims honesty, he claims deception. She says she confessed, he says she lied. The tension between them is heavy. He says he still loves her, that he adores their daughter, Royal Blue, but that he can't bear to live in doubt. He's already moved out of their bedroom, already packed his bags, already living halfway out of their home. He wants the DNA test not just for answers, but for closure. Miss Martin weeps as she explains that her mistake came after months of neglect. That she had followed him to another state, leaving behind her family, her friends, her support. She says he stopped coming home, started living his own life, and left her alone in a new place. I made a mistake, she says, but I made it because I was lonely. The judge listens quietly, her face filled with empathy but firmness. She reminds them both that pain doesn't justify pain, that revenge only deepens the wound. When Mr. Penner speaks, his words are edged with bitterness. He says that while he understands, he can't forget, that he can't share a bed with someone who betrayed his trust, no matter how much he still cares. Miss Martin pleads for their family. She says she loves him, that she regrets everything, that she wants to rebuild what they had. But he remains guarded. His heart says yes, but his pride says no. And as the court prepares to reveal the results that could either save or end them, both know that no matter what the DNA says, something inside them will never be the same again. The silence before the DNA results feels endless, the kind that presses on every chest in the room. Miss Martin grips her trembling hands, tears clinging to her lashes. Mr. Penner sits stiffly beside her, his jaw clenched, his heart locked behind years of pride and pain. The judge holds the envelope. Small, ordinary, yet heavy with everything these two have left. Within it lies either the key to healing or the final nail in the coffin of their love. But before reading it, she looks at them with quiet authority. You two are not just here because of a mistake, she says. You're here because you stopped listening to each other. Her words slice through the air. For a moment, neither speaks. Miss Martin's voice breaks first. I never wanted to hurt him, she whispers. When I moved to Wisconsin, I thought we were starting fresh. I left everything behind. My job, my family, my friends. I believed in him. But when he stopped coming home, when he started disappearing for days, I felt like I didn't matter anymore. That night, that party, I was lonely, lost, and I made a horrible mistake. But I told him I did. The very next morning, Mr. Penner shakes his head. No, you didn't tell me. You waited until you found out you were pregnant, until it was too late. Their stories clash, both raw and real, both rooted in pain. The judge doesn't take sides. She simply sighs, the way someone does when they've seen too many hearts crumble the same way. Every couple that comes through this courtroom thinks their story is unique, she says. But it's not. This is what happens when love turns into revenge. You hurt me, I'll hurt you back. But when you play that game, the only ones who lose are your children. Miss Martin bows her head, her tears finally falling. I know, she says softly. I've been paying for that night ever since. Every day, Mr. Penner's voice cracks, the anger fading to exhaustion. I just don't understand why she had to do it. We could have fixed things. We could have worked through it. But now, he trails off, his voice trembling. Now I look at our daughter, and I don't even know if she's mine. The mention of royal blue, their little girl, brings a different kind of silence. The kind that aches, because behind all the accusations, all the mistakes, there's still an innocent child waiting at home, blissfully unaware of the storm her parents are drowning in. The judge asks Miss Martin, when you think about your daughter, what do you feel? She looks up, eyes wet but resolute. I feel guilt, she says. Every time I see her, I see the mistake I made. But I also see love, because even if I was wrong, she isn't. She's the best part of me. I just want her to grow up knowing her family. Not broken, not bitter. Her words hang in the air. Even Mr. Penner's expression softens for a moment. He rubs the back of his neck, lost in thought. I love that little girl, he admits. Whether she's mine or not, I've been there since the day she was born. I just need to know the truth, not because I don't love her, but because I can't live with lies anymore. It's a sentence that echoes what every parent in that courtroom fears, that love alone might not be enough to fight uncertainty. As they wait, the judge leans back and folds her hands. You both need to hear something, she says gently. When a man leaves, a woman feels abandoned. When a woman strays, a man feels betrayed. But the truth is, both are just hurting in different ways. And if you two can't learn to forgive each other, that hurt is all your daughter will ever inherit. The courtroom stays quiet, but the message lands deeply. Finally, the moment comes. The judge opens the envelope, her voice steady but slow. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. The room holds its breath again. In the case of Martin versus Penner, when it comes to 22-month-old Royal Blue, Miss Martin's hands grip the edge of the table. Mr. Penner's eyes close, his lips moving silently. A prayer, a plea, a last wish. It has been determined by this court. Another pause, then the words that change everything. Mr. Penner, you are the father. The air shatters. Miss Martin gasps, covering her face as tears pour out in relief. Thank God, she cries, her voice trembling. Oh my God, thank you. Mr. Penner exhales sharply, his whole body shaking as the weight of months of anger and fear dissolves in an instant. He laughs, not out of humor but disbelief. She's mine? He whispers, almost afraid to believe it. She's really mine. She's yours, the judge confirms. Without a doubt, Miss Martin breaks down completely, sobbing through her apologies. I'm so sorry, she says again and again. I'm so sorry, Rome. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. Mr. Penner reaches out hesitantly, and for the first time in a long while, his hand finds hers. It's over, he says softly. It's really over. Their embrace is messy and tearful, but it's real. Two people rediscovering the love that's been buried under too much pride. The judge smiles faintly. That's what forgiveness looks like, she says. It's not clean. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Miss Martin laughs through her tears. He's been sleeping on the couch for months, she says, half joking, half sincere. Maybe now he'll move back in. Mr. Penner grins for the first time, wiping his face. Yeah, he says. That couch was killing my back anyway. The courtroom shares a soft laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's human. After months of bitterness, the sound of laughter feels like sunlight breaking through clouds. The judge nods approvingly. You've both been given a second chance. Don't waste it. Love your daughter. Respect each other. And most importantly, remember, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over punishment. As they leave the courtroom, hand in hand, the tension that once filled the air melts into something lighter, fragile, but hopeful. For both couples, the day has brought more than DNA results. It's brought truth. It's exposed pain, yes, but it's also revealed something greater. The strength that comes from facing that pain together. Because sometimes, love isn't tested by comfort. It's tested by chaos. Back outside the courtroom, life continues. Two families walk away, carrying the same lesson in different hearts. For Mr. Pickett and his wife, the DNA test confirmed what his soul already knew. That love had made him a father long before science did. His laughter still echoes in the hallways of Paternity Court. The joy of a man who almost lost everything, but found it again through truth. For Miss Martin and Mr. Penner, the journey isn't over. Their scars run deep, but their hope runs deeper. They've learned that forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it gives the future a chance. The cases may have ended, but their stories continue, not as perfect couples, but as imperfect people trying to love better. Because what defines these families isn't the betrayal, the tests, or even the verdicts. It's the decision, the conscious, painful, and courageous decision to keep loving after the truth comes out. The courtroom has seen countless couples come and go, each carrying the same fragile dream, that love can survive the truth. Some fail, some fall apart, but sometimes, just sometimes, love wins. And when it does, it doesn't come as fireworks or grand gestures. It comes as a quiet moment, a hand reaching for another, a whispered apology, a shared smile after tears. That's what happened in this double episode. Two couples, two stories, both bound by the same struggle. To love after betrayal, to trust after lies, to rebuild after collapse. For Mr. Pickett, Fatherhood was more than DNA. It was patience, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bond of a man who refused to walk away from his child. His story became a testament to what it means to stay, even when staying hurts. For Mr. Penner, love was the battlefield between pride and pain. He wanted to leave, to protect himself from disappointment. But deep down he couldn't stop caring. When the results came, proving Royal Blue was his daughter, he didn't just regain a child. He regained the part of himself that believed in family. And for the women, for Miss Pickett and Miss Martin, their stories are reminders of humanity's fragility. They made mistakes, but they also told the truth. They faced judgment, but they also sought redemption. Their courage to confess, even late, became the first step toward healing. The court may close at the end of each episode, but what it leaves behind is timeless lessons in love, forgiveness and truth. Love, after all, isn't about never falling. It's about rising, again and again, even when the world is watching. And so, as the echoes of that courtroom fade, what remains are the quiet moments afterward. A father holding his son a little tighter, a husband unpacking his suitcase, a wife daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, love can begin again. Because in the end, paternity court isn't just about DNA. It's about the choices people make when faced with truth. It's about hearts tested by doubt and redeemed by love. The courtroom may have emptied, but the stories it held linger like echoes, reminders that behind every verdict, there is a deeper truth about love, forgiveness, and what it truly means to be a family. For some, the DNA results bring relief. For others, they open wounds that may never fully heal. But for both couples, the Picketts and the Penners, this day has carved itself into their lives forever. It is not the end of their pain, but the beginning of something far more profound, the chance to rebuild. The Picketts, love through doubt. When Mr. Pickett walked into that courtroom, he was carrying years of pain disguised as patience. He had spent countless nights wondering if the boy who called him Dad truly carried his blood. That single doubt, invisible to everyone else, had eaten away at him. Every smile from his son came with a whisper of fear. Every laugh held a shadow of what if. Yet when the results confirmed that Patrick was his biological son, it was as if the world exhaled with him. For a man who had been holding his breath for years, that truth was more than vindication. It was freedom. He cried not because of guilt or anger, but because he had loved his child purely, unconditionally, despite the uncertainty. He realized that real fatherhood had never been about DNA. It had always been about presence, devotion, and sacrifice. And for Miss Pickett, that moment was both redemption and reckoning. She had carried her mistake like a secret stone, heavy in her chest. It took her 3 years to confess, 3 years of fear, guilt, and self-loathing. But when she finally did, she faced the storm head-on. Now, as she watches her husband celebrate the truth, she sees the cost of both their choices. She sees the pain they've inflicted on each other, and the resilience it took to endure it. She knows that love once broken never returns the same. It changes shape, it grows scar tissue, but sometimes it comes back stronger. They leave the courtroom not as a perfect couple, but as survivors of their own mistakes. They have learned that forgiveness is not a single act. It's a daily decision. It's waking up each morning and saying, I still choose us. And though their future remains uncertain, one thing is clear. Their son, Patrick, will grow up knowing that love fought for him. Hard, messy, but real. Because that's what real love does. It doesn't walk away when the truth hurts. It stays and heals, piece by piece. The Penners, redemption. After the storm, in the second half of the episode, the story of Miss Martin and Mr. Penner mirrors the same heartache, but through a different lens, one where pride, loneliness and regret collide. For Miss Martin, the road to this courtroom was paved with shame. One night, one terrible night, changed everything. A night of loneliness turned into a lifetime of doubt. A moment of weakness became a mountain of guilt. And though she confessed, her truth arrived too late to stop the damage. Her fiancé's trust had already fractured, and no apology could fix what he had already decided to believe. But the DNA results changed that. When the judge revealed that Royal Blue was indeed Mr. Penner's daughter, the dam broke. All the walls he had built to protect himself from disappointment came crashing down. He wept, not because he had been wrong to doubt, but because he finally saw the truth he had been too afraid to hope for. His daughter was his. The family he thought he'd lost was still his to save. Miss Martin, sobbing beside him, could barely speak. Her apologies turned into gasps, her hands trembling as if holding the weight of forgiveness itself. And then, something unexpected happened. Something rare in courtrooms filled with anger and regret. He reached for her, not to accuse, not to argue, but to hold her hand. That small act, simple, human, trembling with vulnerability, was the real verdict of the day. Because love, in its truest form, isn't proven by words. It's proven by hands that reach out even after they've been burned. After the verdict, the quiet lessons, when the cameras stop rolling and the audience fades away, what remains are the lives left behind. The moments after the verdict, the drive home, the silence between two people who once shouted. Those are the true battlegrounds. For both couples, the results are only the beginning. The DNA didn't fix their relationships. It